This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We're coming to you through the leader in paranormal and alternative science programming, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, and can also be found on our website, thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring dreaming awake. The dreamscape has always been a place of power for me. As a child, I was an avid dreamer, having dreams so vivid and real, I would mistake them for reality. Like most children relating a dream to adults as if it were an actual event, I was told, no, Gigi, it was just a dream. That didn't really happen. I later recognized it simply hadn't happened yet. As an adult, I adopted the practice of recording my dreams in a journal by the bed. Each morning, armed with the journal and a dream interpretation book, I'd go over dreams from the night before to decode their meaning. Not only did this practice put my personal processing and spiritual evolution on the fast track, it led to the understanding that many of the dreams were actually prophetic. As I worked with dreams and related them to the events of waking life, I found that while the dreams could be precognizant, they were not set in stone. Rather than being a victim of what was coming, I could choose to take a different track when I saw the events unfolding indicated a foreseen outcome, not to my liking. I learned to work with intention and bottom line in relationship to my dreams. I would decide what I wanted and under what circumstances, and then record it in the dream journal. Subsequent dreams indicated the path to my intention, while others warned of upcoming events, blocking me from achieving the goal if I didn't change direction. Anytime I experienced a déjà vu, I'd run to my dream journal, comparing it with what was happening in the dreams. The déjà vu always aligned with something in the dreams, serving as a marker. Every déjà vu gave me an opportunity to reevaluate where I was going and if I wanted to continue down that path. The dream gave an indication where the path was leading and the likely outcome that could be expected. Once indoctrinated in the shamanic way, I perfected the shamanic journey trance, which facilitated entering the dream state at will. My dreams became much more directed and interactive, both in journey and in sleep. Often I communed with other people in my dreams. After observing this phenomena, I realized I was actually working with others at night who, like me, had chosen to be of service during our evolving times. I've developed the ability to consciously return to theta in order to continue a dream as an active participant. I'm able to visit places and people I've no way of knowing, yet can later verify as real. Over the years, I've deepened my dream practice. I can tell if someone emotionally close to me is in distress or receive warnings of negative potential approaching the lives of my loved ones. By setting the intention to do so before bed, I compose songs and write entire books from dreams. Information accessed in this manner is well beyond what I could bring forth using the conscious daytime mind. In my sleep, I frequently visit loved ones who have crossed. More sentient in sleep than in waking, I'm unencumbered by time and space. I have access to many more realms and dimensions. In effect, my consciousness becomes much more expanded. I'm actually dreaming myself awake. Dreams are so much more than we give them credit for. We spend 1/3 of our life in the dreamscape. But what exactly is a dream? Our guest this hour, Mark Stavish, the Director of Studies for the Institute for Hermetic Studies, is a lifelong student of esotericism with over 35 years' experience in comparative religion, philosophy, psychology, and mysticism. Mark is the author of nearly 20 books which are popular in several languages, including French, Russian, Portuguese, Spanish, Polish, Esoterian. Mark has been a consultant on numerous media projects. After this commercial break, I will introduce Mark, and together we'll explore dreaming, spiritual enlightenment, and the evolution of consciousness. So don't go away. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, thescienceofmagic.net. The Science of Magic is produced by Relmar McConnell Media Company, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com.
Shamanism is recognized as a method to access the quantum level. Mastery of shamanic skills puts spiritual information and healing power into your hands. Path Home Shamanic Art School, a bonded Colorado certified occupational school, has met rigorous state standards, ensuring its director and instructors have the qualifications to teach the shamanic arts. Path Home offers its certification program in blocks of study. Block 1, a 5-day intensive, will be held in the beautiful mountain town of Coaldale, Colorado, October 13th through 18th. Registration deadline is September 12th. Experience journey trance, power animals, helping spirits, sacred space, and life purpose. Come discover your power. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, in the magical world of shamanism. Call 303-775-3431 or visit findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Mark Stavish, author of 20 books on the esoteric and director of studies for the Institute for Hermetic Studies. As a graduate of King's College in Theology and Communications and Rhode Island College with a master's degree in counseling, emphasizing psycho-spiritual modalities and psychosynthesis, Mark blends tradition with modern research in the application of esoteric psychology. His website is, let me spell this out, HermeticScientute.org. Mark, thank you so much for joining us on the Science of Magic.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me.
I'm going to hit you up front with a tough one, Mark. What exactly is a dream?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Well, the question is, what is not a dream? I mean, unfortunately, we're always looking at things in terms of what they are and what they're not. It really is some level of continuity of consciousness. Okay, so then we always have to get into the question, what is consciousness and all that. But we'll just say it's awareness. It's something that we're aware of. Okay, so then the question is, what are we aware of, and where are we aware of it? And the safest thing to say is we're becoming aware of the contents of our own mind on some level. And I think that's safe to say what a dream is. At least, we say a dream meaning what occurs when we sleep, or when we get in a very relaxed state and kind of have these images and ideas and fantasies arise before us. Because some people dream, they have a light dream. They may sit down in a chair or lay down on a couch and they begin to dream very lightly. That's a dream too.
Is that
so the
more
question
like
is, what do we do with it? I think that's really what people want to know. And I think you hit the nail on the head in your introduction. First of all, you got to pay attention to it. And then you have to begin to write them down and really analyze them and take them apart like you did, because the language of a dream is often very particular and peculiar to us, because it's dealing with the contents of our own mind.
So why do you think we do? Why do we dream?
Oh, probably a host of reasons. I mean, there's a lot of physiological reasons. I mean, you have this feeling that you're out in a winter, landscape, and you realize that really it's just your air conditioner is blowing on your toes. I mean, there's a lot of, it's stimulation of some kind of stimuli. But many people suggest that we dream because we have unresolved problems during the day, and that we're trying to work them out somehow, okay, because of the way that our consciousness works. We think in terms of ourselves as very rational beings. The fact is we're not rational. Anything that's rational is just a result of realizing that whatever irrational behavior we had was really bad for us, so we've changed our behaviors. So what happens is all these emotions and feelings, which is the key part of it, okay, pop up, and then they take some shape or form. And that shape or form we call symbols, okay? And then we begin to work out in this inner landscape issues. Now, that has both a negative effect in terms of what we call maybe nightmares. We don't understand what's happening, and we have these kind of scary experiences. But it has really positive ones, too. As you hinted at, you stated very clearly, before going to sleep, we can make a decision about problem solving. So the fact is, see, we're problem-solving machines. We're goal-oriented machines. And this is just great. And you grab that, bull by the horns, if you will, and say, tonight I want to dream about blank, or I want to solve this problem, or get inspired for blank. And you can do a lot with your life that way, because that's where all the good stuff lies, below the threshold of consciousness. And for most people, the only time they really access it, if they don't have a good meditative practice, is when they sleep.
Mm. It sounds like there's a whole bunch of different kinds of dreams. How many are there?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think you could probably, pick any number if you want to get down to details. But we'll say there's, physiological dreams and things like I talked about earlier. Something stimulates you, hot or cold, or your dog licking your toes, and you dream about it. Okay, that's really not terribly meaningful. Then there's going to be kind of just unconscious dreams, meaning stuff that just kind of floats up from the day. Yes, it's bothering you and it's a problem, but again, it's not a great deal of deep meaning is attached to it. It's very transient and passing. Then we begin to have more dynamic dreams, okay, where something really powerful is going on, but still it's symbolic, and we're in the dream. We believe the dream is real. That's what I want to emphasize. We are not aware that this is something that is not happening outside of us. We're in that environment, and we're thinking that it's real, okay? Then we have a lucid dream. And a lucid dream is a dream where we know that we are dreaming. We know that what is happening is not real, meaning in the physical world, that it is happening within our mind and that we can begin to take control of it. Now, I want to state there is actually kind of a bridge experience between these two where we kind of meander back and forth and we can kind of have thoughts, okay, and then we kind of go out of the lucid state back into the dream state. And I had one of those last night. I dreamt that I was in one of my old college campus buildings, a building that was particularly important to me, and, that's important there. And that it had been renovated, as it has over the years. But I have not been in it, so I don't know if these renovations match. Okay, but as I was walking down the steps, I looked at the colors, and I just thought to myself, "Whoever thought this was a good idea?" And that's what occurred in the dream. In the dream, I actually thought, "Whoever thought this was a good idea?" They're horrible colors. Well, they weren't horrible; they're just too dark. But the point is, what will happen in a dream is there'll be a trigger event like that, where we're in a location or having an experience that is familiar to us, but something about it isn't right. It's not, and that's kind of to trigger us to go over to the next threshold. Now, sometimes it does. We say, oh, this is a dream and I'm dreaming, or other times we just keep going along. Then we move out of what we call lucid dreams, which is what is a very important state to get to meditatively through your meditative practice and your nighttime dream practices. Then we can move into what we talk about astral projection, okay, or moving our consciousness into other locations and other locales. And, of course, that's very important in terms of preparing for death. So all of this exists on a continuum. And that continuum is to help us understand our own mind so that we can have a continuity of consciousness through our physical life and beyond.
Wow. Tell me a little bit about precognizant dreams.
Well, those are important to pay attention to. And generally they occur when in a lucid state, meaning there's something very dynamic going on here. You may not necessarily be aware that you're dreaming, but you're aware that, hey, this is really important and I need to pay attention to this. They often come with a wonderful amount of clarity and brilliance. That's the other thing. The colors often tend to be extremely bright. Okay? So when you're having them, pay attention to them or write them down. The problem is they can be often symbolic. So you have to learn how to interpret the symbolisms until you can get to a very lucid state. And in that lucid state, we often then move away from symbolic encounters into a direct knowing, a direct perception, what we call clairvoyance or clear seeing. You know something. You don't have to decode it.
Got it. So you don't have to decode it. It's like, so instead of seeing symbols, you're seeing actual events or places. Is that what it's like?
Correct. Or it may just be a knowing. Or a sound. You may hear it as well. So like someone, like I'm speaking to you and you're speaking to me, we may just have that, like a conversation, words or voices or something of that nature. But it's very clear and pronounced.
Right. I've been woken up out of a dead sleep by hearing someone's voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very disconcerting. What are you doing in here?
Well, that's it. Because we're communicating with ourselves, we tend to be kind to ourselves, and we recognize very quickly what works and what doesn't.
When that
yeah,
happens, my cats are upset. I say, is this person really here?
Well, yeah, I'll give you two examples of precognizant dreams that I had. And, of course, the problem is they occurred, three of them. One was back in the early 90s, the assassination of the Israeli prime minister, okay? And that was the morning it occurred. In fact, when I look at the timeline, it probably had already occurred or was about to occur by the time I was waking up.
Gotcha.
Okay. The other one was 9/11. And I have the
that one hit me.
That. Yeah. And the dream, though, was quite interesting because it was so clear and so simple, okay? But the imagery, when I woke up, I was thinking, geez, something, because it was almost like as I described someone. You remember those kind of cartoons in the late 50s and early 60s? Everything was kind of just crude shapes, it wasn't very detailed. Mm-hmm. And it was like that. It was, I knew it was a tall building with a flat roof, and this lion had escaped from a basement and jumped up about 2/3 of the way, and then everything went red. Well, of course, the lion was Sekhmet, the goddess of war, and they said Egyptian, and they said most of the guys on those planes, at least, were told they were Egyptian. So, clearly the flat roof symbolism is no problem, because that's what the towers had. So, you wake up with something like that, and you say, okay, I know this is really important, but what do I do with it? And then what was it, like 4 hours later, everyone at work was staring at the TVs. So one of the problems with these dreams when they're on a big scale like that is there's often very little you can do with it, but it just helps you recognize kind of, that there are forces within your own mind that are communicating a vast array of information to you, and you need to pay attention to it.
Do you think that's where we're tapped into the universal consciousness and that a lot of people witness this and it registers in our dreams?
Well, I don't even know if there is a universal consciousness. That's a philosophical notion. But there is an interconnectedness of consciousness. There's an interconnectedness of ideas and experiences. So I think that somehow, whether it's through that interconnectedness or through a common pool, we're able to perceive things. The question is, how do we pull it through? There's the chance that we know, for example, we know that those were planned events, and the people who carry them out had very specific notions of what they were going to do. So that exists, okay, in that, we'll say, in that pool of consciousness or in the interconnected web, if you want to call it that. Now, how is it that then my mind reaches out and accesses that, and then once it accesses it, then how does it then translate it to me? Why is it not coming through clearly and precisely just as it is in their minds? You see, what are the filters then that we have within ourselves that prevent us from seeing things clearly in that clairvoyant state all the time?
Amazing. We're going to have to take a short break. On the other side, I would love to talk about the difference between, or the similarities between, dream clairvoyance and waking clairvoyance. Mark and I will return to our discussion after this short break. We're coming to you through the land of leading-edge paranormal broadcasting, the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't miss the other fine shows and hosts on xzbn.net. You're listening to The Science of Magic, thescienceofmagic.net. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Mark and I will be back, so don't you go away.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our special guest this hour is Mark Stavish, author of 20 books on the esoteric, director of studies for the Institute of Hermetic Studies. Mark, we were just talking about being clairvoyant or clear-seeing in dreamscape as well as in waking time. How do they relate and how are they different?
Well, you know, if someone suddenly has a flash of awareness in their waking state, it means because their mind was relaxed enough to perceive it. And often, you know, we don't often recognize that. Now, if you do say to someone, you know, I always get my best ideas when I'm in the shower or doing my dishes, or that great idea that flashes into your mind when you're sitting there at the red light, that's because you're just relaxed. You know, the mind isn't, you know, it's humming along, but it's not, you know, an overdrive, nor is it sluggish. It's at that right place so that you can have that deeper awareness of stuff. The same thing occurs for most people when they sleep. That's really the only time they often do relax. That's why we always say, you know, meditative practice is really very important in this work. You know, really need to have a daily meditative practice and learn to understand the contents of your own mind, so that when you do go asleep and you do have these experiences, or when you do have certain visionary experiences, even in meditation, you can deal with it. You can understand them and address them properly. So there really isn't any difference. It's just a matter of when it occurs.
So it's where's our attention, or this has to do with brain waves as well, doesn't it? Like we slide into alpha and then into theta briefly, and that's where we get the clairvoyance.
Yes, of course. The mechanisms of the brain need to be fully they don't need to be understood by us as individuals, but we need to understand that they play a critical role in this because of the feedback that is created between our thoughts, our emotions and words, and our physical activities. That's why, and whenever we undertake a spiritual practice, you often see first it's posture, first it's body, then it's breathing, because breathing slows down the mind and the emotions, and then it's, what am I here for? Then it's ideas, thoughts, words, and deeds, as we say in the Christian churches, forgive me for I have sinned in thought, word, and deed. Well, that's the same way we also don't make a mistake. That's the way back. In Tibetan Buddhism, they call it body, speech, and mind. But you have to focus these three things.
Boy, it's all about focus and intention, isn't it?
That's it. That's all it is. Everything is about that. It's really that simple. It's not that complicated. We're just we're just lining up all the pieces. There's only three of them.
And we're all scattered as it is.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's like as soon as you grab one, it's like having marbles on a tabletop that's moving. As soon as you get one, the others roll off, and you got to grab them.
Yeah, it reminds me of a bag of cats.
That's it.
Yeah. So through meditative practice, or in my case, through shamanic discipline, we can actually learn to control and or participate in our dreams. What do you think is the best way for a person to start to do that?
The meditative practice, or participating in their dreams?
The participating in the dreams, because I believe we've ascertained that it's pretty doggone important.
Oh yeah, just as I wrote in Between the Gates, lucid dreaming, astral projection. This is that you begin at night in there, and we have a monograph out there on how to develop your psychic abilities. There's discussion about dream practices in there, and I think I even touched upon it in my book on alchemy. And really, the first thing is to begin when you're there at night, and you're in bed, is to recognize and fully affirm that tonight you will dream. You fully affirm it. Tonight I will dream, and I will recognize that I am dreaming. That's the next phase. I will recognize that I am dreaming. I will take control of my dreams. That's the lucid phase, and I will remember them upon awakening. Now, there's another part in there, but that's the short version, because that's the stages that we want. Now, you may not recognize that you're dreaming. You may not take control of them lucidly, but you'll start to dream. You see, you get the ball in motion. You start the process. And then you'll notice, after a month, you know what? Certain times of the month, during the lunar phases, I dream more actively. Certain times I've had some lucid dreams now. You see? Peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. And you just keep at it. And then you can begin to do what you talked about. Tonight I will dream, and I will find a solution to this problem. Or I will be inspired to, create blank. And you keep that up, and the more you do it, the more you'll get out of it.
In this process, Mark, how important is journaling your dreams, night dreams, as well as the events of the days?
Well, it really is critical, because one of the problems folks have is they don't understand what their dreams mean. They're too close to them. And in some of the writings that I've done, I've detailed, different methods for analyzing a dream, how to step back from it and really understand the symbolism for what it is. But, one of my teachers, Jean Dubuis, who was a French alchemist as well as an engineer in his day-to-day life, he had pointed out that often dreams don't take place sequentially, meaning what you dream on Tuesday doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what you may have dreamed on Monday. that dreams can often follow a pattern that we call in alchemy and Kabbalah known as planetary hours. And this has to do with for what your listeners might understand, is kind of like astrological influences on our dream life.
That's hugely important. I've really taken note of that because I don't have to, but I choose to follow astrology because I work with people, and how the astrological influences on my clients is very profound and kind of dictates what's coming up for them in any given moment. And as I started following astrology, I started noticing for myself as well how the dreams and the astrological influences really dovetail together.
Well, yeah, and the big one is the lunar cycles. Almost everyone notices that. When the moon is waxing and going to full, that's when they find a lot of dream activity kicks in. Okay, that's good. But now, are you dreaming predominantly on, we'll say, Friday nights? Are you dreaming predominantly on Wednesday nights? How does this relate to the day of your birth? Were you born on that day? Okay, these things happen are important too, and each of those days of the week has its own energetic signature, as we call it. So, the energetic signature of that day will determine the energetic content or quality of the dream.
Got it. It's as people are listening to this, it sounds like, oh, that's so detailed, and do I have time to do this? And journal and make sense of the metaphors. But really, this is the gateway into totally different realms, isn't it?
It is. I mean, look, you're going to sleep anyhow, so it only takes a few minutes before, as you're falling asleep, to prep your mind for the experiences you're going to have. It only takes really a few minutes, usually, upon awakening, to write a lot of the stuff down. And I know we've all had those laboriously long dreams. Okay, that happens to everyone. But learn to distill it. That's my point. Learn to get down to the key elements of it. And then, what does that mean? What does that mean? You can figure it out. Everyone can figure it out. And it also is motivational in my mind to really push beyond the symbolic dialogue, because that kind of wears out too. I mean, that's just, right. It's wearing. So you want to get to that point where you just tell me what I need to know.
Yeah, with all the symbols.
Right, and that's where we had the other part. Tonight I will dream. I will recognize that I'm dreaming. I will take control of my dreams. And then the phase that we skipped earlier is, and I will perceive the light of reality, or something to that effect. There's different names for it, but meaning that I will directly perceive reality. Okay,
that's a tall order.
Right, but that's the phase. That's that, and then I'll remember it on awakening. But that's the cycle. That's the complete circle of our journey as beings.
Wow. Mark, I often commune with loved ones who've crossed in my dreams. How do dreams and death relate?
Well, as I said earlier, that the process of death is is a dissolution of the constituent elements that hold our body and with it consciousness together. So when people die, if they don't have a strong sense of consciousness that they've developed in life, that consciousness more or less dissolves to some degree or goes asleep, if you will, in death. So what will happen is people, at least according to what we're told in different traditions, people don't like that feeling of lack of control that they experience, and then they will cling to something. And that clinging to something can often be what creates hauntings, or that clinging to something is what is the actual inducement of reincarnation. Reincarnation is not a conscious decision. Very few people consciously reincarnate. It's an act of instinctual habituation for survival.
Wow. I've never looked at it.
Well, because Earth is the only solid thing for your consciousness. That's why in a nightmare you want to wake up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So by doing these practices, you're able to enter into the invisible and have stability to your awareness and not be bothered by things, just as you would walk down a street and not be bothered by, maybe what is unsettling sights and sounds and smells there.
Well, this starts
to
really
navigate it.
This starts to really make sense to me as to why a deep part of shamanic practice and many other practices, Buddhism and everything, is to help the dead to cross, to have a provision, to give the person something to hold on to as they start to transcend this reality. That starts to make a lot of sense there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that crossing is tricky, and when doing different so-called journeying, we're doing a combination of things too. We're looking into our own mind. We're journeying sometimes in or with the mind of another person or people, although that tends to be rare. You have to have some good experience to do that. And then, of course, you can journey, for someone else, just as we talk about in shamanic work or in different Kabbalistic work, alchemical work. You can do that as well, and to acquire information or experiences to help them. But it's not always pleasant. I mean, this is the reality that we have to accept about whether it's life on Earth or life after death. It's not always pleasant. So then how do we get enough control to keep it pleasant? And that's what enlightenment is about.
Wow.
Is recognizing the fundamental nature of our own mind. And with that, once that's done, then you know what it's meant by a saint can make a heaven of hell, because it's about their own mind. Or as Jacobemus said, heaven and hell are all within us.
No wiser words were ever spoken. It certainly is an inside job, isn't it? Mark and I will be back shortly. We're going to take another commercial break. This has just been riveting. I'm really excited to talk about evolution of consciousness and the dreamscape. You're listening to The Science of Magic, thescienceofmagic.net, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. We're brought to you by the leader in paranormal, spirituality, and parapsychology programming, the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. Don't go away. Mark and I will be back on the other side.
As host of Dialogue with Divinity, I am thrilled to join the X Zone Broadcast Network and their growing number of affiliates. My quest for a connection to the divine ignited my successful career path as an international spiritual counselor for over 40 years, an author of 4 books, and well-known metaphysical educator. My clients call me their spiritual mama. So my job is to offer you a radio show to help you grow spiritually with wisdom and get specific tools from guests who are experts in their field. Tune in to Dialogue with Divinity and be part of the conversation with Spirit. My goal, your happy soul. For more information, please visit my website at johannacarroll.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Coming soon to the X-Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who would like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X-Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka, and one of those gifted people is our guest, Mark Stavish, author of 20 books on the esoteric and the director of studies for the Institute for Hermetic Studies. Mark, we were talking about how we can dream ourselves awake, if you will. How can we use the dreamscape to actively participate in our own evolution?
Well, first of all, as we said earlier, that this is just a critical part of our lives. We're asleep. Our bodies sleep, but our minds don't. There's always something going on in there, and the better we understand ourselves and better able to access those deep periods of relaxation and wonderful creative content and powerful content that exists in there, the better we're able to lead and direct our lives in a manner that we want, so that we can be happy. Everyone remembers, reading those books on psychic development and being told, make these affirmations when you go to sleep, or make these affirmations, when you're waking up, because your subconscious is most receptive to it at that time. And that is part of the point. It's the receptive to, we're constantly taking in information and ideas, but now it's up to us to be selective about it, to direct it, and to process it in a manner that is beneficial to us. So we have to decide and take control of our lives and say, what do I want out of my life? What is it that I want to experience? And those dream experiences are a way of accessing that energy and that power even more deeply.
It's amazing. Few of us even realize that we actually have the choice. We just kind of ride along, victim of our own unconscious intent. Mark, before we get much further into this last segment, would you please tell our listeners how they can get a hold of your wonderful works?
Well, it's very simple. All they have to do is go to Amazon.com. And look me up. It's Mark Stavish. We've got a lot of stuff on there. All of the coursework most of the coursework for the Institute for Hermetic Studies available through there, through our monographs and our other publications. We've got probably, I don't know the number now, but well over 24 videos on YouTube, Institute for Hermetic Studies channel. Of course, they can just Google my name, and they'll begin to pop up too. Full coursework is available there. All you have to do is be able to access YouTube and get 1 or 2 or 3 of the books from Amazon, and it's a complete self-study course.
Fantastic. Beautiful provision, Mark. Thank you. So do you think we all have the ability to be psychic?
Yes. The fact that we exist means we have the ability to be psychic, because really we are psychic. I mean, psyche means soul, okay, and we'll say that word for consciousness. It's just a matter of, are we conscious, are we aware of all of the stuff that's going on inside our own mind and why it's there and why it affects us and how it happens. That's all spiritual development is about. It's becoming self-aware. Self-aware of our own content, of our own actions, the results of our actions, karma, cause, and effect. That's all it is.
So how can we develop our intuition?
Well, as we said, meditation, because you have to calm your mind enough to be receptive to those flashes that they come, because it's very much like a memory. Often you think, you see someone, you're trying to remember their name, or you're trying to remember an address or a phone number, but then you decide, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of having to look everything up all the time, and you begin to slow your mind down, and you begin to make the synaptic connections that trace it back, or you develop your own unique mechanism for remembering things. And that kind of just flash of lightness, you can almost feel it open up as the memory comes to you. There's kind of a brightness and a lightness to it, and you go, I got it. It's the same way with psychic phenomena. We have to be able to relax enough to grab hold of it, to pull it over, to hear it, to listen to it, to see it. And that's where meditation comes in.
Know thyself, basically. So you know your own landscape. Would you speak to the 3 major practices or paths in Western esotericism?
Generally, we have three paths, okay, a variety of practices, but one of them is astrology, and that's understanding cycles and how that affects both consciousness and matter. We often think of modern astrology in terms of birth charts and consciousness, but there is an aspect of how it affects matter, and that's how it's used in astrology. In alchemy. Astrology is used in alchemy, but also how it works in terms of mundane events, or mundane astrology, where we do predictive events, whether it be weather or natural events or political landscapes. So there's astrology. There's alchemy, which is the understanding of matter and consciousness, okay? And this is why we talk about making alchemical products or spagyric products and medicines, very similar to Indian and Chinese medicine in that regard, and they are all interrelated on that level. And then, of course, there's what we call Kabbalah, but it's not just Jewish mysticism, but it's kind of a catch basin for a variety of different meditative and ritual practices. So some people don't say Kabbalah, they say ritual magic, okay? And that is using symbols in an orchestrated manner to create specific experiences in consciousness, as well as the world about us, too. So those are the three. Those would be the 3 legs of the Hermetic trivium, if we want to call it that.
Got it. So it sounds like ways of consciously working with frequency through symbology and ritual, etc. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's precisely it.
So what are the purpose of these systems?
Well, it all depends on each individual what you want out of it. I mean, not every, they say all paths lead to Rome, but not all paths lead to God. I mean, it really depends on what you want. So, you can use astrology and never really be concerned about your own development because you're just studying cycles. You can use alchemy to create a variety of medicines. Although you won't get the highest ones, you can create some very useful ones if you're not terribly concerned about your unfoldment. And same thing with ritual. You can begin to understand contents of your own mind. Most people, unfortunately, come to ritual with the worst of intentions. They're always trying to figure out ways to get a new boyfriend or girlfriend or win the lottery, when really all of these things, the first thing you need to do before you try to start moving stuff around and making things happen is understand your own mind and what you're trying to make things happen with. Which is an important part, because when you really see what's in your own mind, they developed a term for it about 120 years ago, and they called it the terror of the threshold. And that's when many people undertake spiritual practices when they have this kind of traumatic experience or traumatic nightmare, because really they're seeing what's the crap that's in their own mind.
So...
Yeah, it's just so true. And you just have to, get your courage up and work through it.
So basically, work through your own shadow before you can see the light?
Exactly. Or at least, and maybe not work through it, but at least know that it's there and be able to take it apart piece by piece as you go on the journey. Because I think the journey is really a spiral. You're constantly hitting the same points over and over again, but just with more content and more ability.
From a higher perspective. That sacred spiral is present in just about every esoteric practice, isn't it?
It seems to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do these steps, if you want to use them to promote psychic development, how do they help that?
Basically, as you clear away the obscurations, the junk, you get to see through clearly. See, it's really, we don't develop anything for the most part. We don't. That's just a phrase we use. What we're doing is basically cleaning the crap off the window to let the light come in.
Yeah, the light's only as clear as the window through which it shines.
Yeah, that's all. And that's what these practices do. They're tools, they're working mechanisms that help us clean the window, or the mirror, if you want to call it that, too.
So psychic development seems to be quite a few steps beyond simple intuitive abilities. Could you go into this a little bit?
Well, when we go into psychic development, we're undertaking maybe specific practices for a specific kind of result. So you're saying, I want to, I want to foresee an event in the future. Okay, so you may be specific about what kind of event you want to see, or whose event you want to see, because if you go into your own mind with kind of generalities, often what you get is generalities on the return. And this is what we talked earlier about as you're going to sleep, being very specific about the statements you make. Many people often don't get the wrong answer. What they do is they ask the wrong question.
Yeah, it's so true. So true.
So learning to be specific about the outcomes you're looking for is very, very helpful in recognizing it when you actually get it.
And again, that goes back to knowing yourself, doesn't it?
Right, and that's where the meditative practices and visualization practices and, practices dealing with out-of-body, astral projection and out-of-body experience is very helpful. Because when everyone wants to have that out-of-body experience until they hit that terror of, they actually feel themselves going out there, oh my God, I'm going to die.
This is death. It looks a lot like death.
Yeah, so, this is as much fun.
Yeah. Exactly. So are there, we're about to run out of time here, but are there some quick tricks to move through that terror so that you can enter into it from a balanced place?
Well, I think the best thing is to look at the monograph we put together, How to Develop Your Psychic Abilities. It's available on Amazon, and really that is a condensed version of all the great stuff that you need to know. That'll keep you very busy for a long time. There is some follow-up references in it, and as one of the reviewers said, they just tried it, and they noticed that their learning curve just shortened dramatically, and that was the purpose of it. That's the purpose of all our writings, is to save you a lot of time and energy on your learning curve. But you still have to do the work.
Oh, there's the key. Mark, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing these wonderful tools with our guests.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our guest this hour has been Mark Stavish, author of 20 books on the esoteric and the director of studies for the Institute for Hermetic Studies. His website, hermeticsinstitute.org. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge and comforted with love as you dream yourself awake.